Hey there, kids. Welcome back. This is the Dadless podcast group. I am the elder. Thank you for tuning in. I had the opportunity to interview Courtland Tyler. He is a CEO and he is a part of the Unfocused and Daydream Animations teams. This discussion meant a lot to me, not only because of the opportunity, but because it was something new and it was something that potentially could open up the door to more discussions like it. And that is what I'm hoping for. With that being said, let's jump into the episode. This is my interview with Courtland Tyler.
Video games. They seem to have captured America's imagination and its pocket change as well.
The video games are becoming more and more popular, and it's because today's generation grew up on television. We're only limited on video games by the video game designers and engineers' imaginations. Anything they can come up with, we can put on that TV set.
Let's go ahead and start on the gaming side for Unfocused Entertainment.
Yeah, I had to change the name just to Unfocused because they were like, oh, the name's too long in California. I'm like, really?
Really?
He ain't lying.
Yeah, they were like, oh, Unfocused Entertainment is too long, so you got to shorten it up. It was Unfocused Entertainment Production Studios. So I took out Production Studios and put Unfocused Entertainment, and it was like still a little too long. I'm like, oh my God. So then I was like, Unfocused. It's like perfect. I'm like, oh, really?
How long have you been working on this?
So the company itself, I'm fully about to launch this year is how I'm looking at it. I've been working on it for the past 5 years and just started working on Daydream Animations, which is the anime that I'm working on.
Has Unfocused been a startup for the most part?
Yes, it's been a startup. And as far as startups go, what happened, I would have actually been up 2.5 years ago. We had a $5 million deal with an investor.
No way.
Yeah, so he's actually my mentor right now, and he's still on my side. He still wants to invest in me. But what ended up happening is I stayed up late night with my programmer, who's now in jail, and the guy who took most of my people and left and started his own gaming studio. So what happened was we were crunching numbers like the night before, right? Because he was like, oh, yeah, give me all that, check signed. I'll look over it, have my lawyers look over it, and we'll go from there. I was like, oh, bet. Because I was like, at the time, it was like 38 of us working pro bono.
Let me tell you right now. I'm totally thrown off by like just these details. You're hitting me with these big numbers and I'm like, hold on.
Yeah, no, my first game was a big game, which was called HCN, Hopeless Nights. And that was the $5 million deal we were going to get. So we were doing great. My background has nothing to do with gaming or animation, but promoting, marketing, creative writing, editing, all that other stuff that has to do with getting this stuff out there is my forte. What ended up happening is, as I was doing it, he came across my page and reached out to me. And he was like, what sounds interesting is you're making a whole remote studio. And what I'm seeing is I'm liking it. So we got to talking. And from there, that's when he was like, I think I can invest in you guys and help you out. So when I threw out, it was like I said, 2.5 years at 38 people. He didn't even blink, didn't flinch, didn't nothing. He just said, okay.
Holy
he was
moly.
like, you can get it done in 2.5 years. I was like, yeah. I was like, we can get it done. I'm like, most of the city's already mainly getting up and blocked out. I'm like, the zombies are actually coming in right now too. So everything's actually moving. And he was like, so are you going to outsource some of the stuff you can't finish in-house? I was like, yeah, that's the game plan. I was like, market it with myself with a marketing budget and go from there. So he actually liked the whole aspect of like, okay, this kid can get it out there. He's already got people under his belt working on it. And prior to that, that was 2.5 years in working on that zombie game. Like I said, we were all pro bono. And the night before he was ready to sign the deal, crunch numbers, I was like, all right, we'll pick this up tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow comes. He hits me up. He asked me for the stuff. I asked my guys for the stuff. They sent it to me. I didn't look at it because I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure we're done, right? You're not thinking twice about it. You're like, okay, we squeezed out every penny where it's going to go, so he knows.
Mm-hmm.
Send it to him. I get a text back an hour later, like, I'm not signing this. I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? And he was like, Courtland, did you even take a look at this? I was like, yeah, we worked on it last night. He was like, no, like, really look at this. So I go and look at it. Everything got changed. Like, the number of how much I was looking to make in a matter of the years. And keep in mind, he was paying my salary so I could quit my day job.
Yeah.
And I went and looked. When everything got changed, I was like, oh, my God, that happened. So I call up my guys. I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And my programmer answered. The other guy didn't. And my programmer was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he's not going to sign the $5 million contract. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's not signing. The fuck you mean he's not signing a contract?
Is this What I've been paying for? I thought we were trying to do important work here.
Me and my programmer, we put two and two together. We're like, he fucked it. He was like, he went in himself and looked personal. He's like, no. What the fuck? No. He's like, who the fuck changed the numbers? I was like, that's why I'm fucking calling you. And the other guy's not answering. He was like, dude, it's not even coming from my phone. It's coming from a different iPhone. And I was like, I don't have an iPhone, so I can't change the numbers. I have a fucking Android. So the other guy switched the numbers, swapped the numbers around, and put out more money towards the investor, which pissed the investor off because he's like, the fuck are you doing? You're trying to run a scam on me?
It's like you're blindsiding me at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how he felt. And in the process, that's when the guy sprung out that he's making his own company, his own everything. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck just happened? Like, this really just happened to me. And then you got people who's like, well, I'm quitting. You just used me for nothing and my art and all. I'm like, dude, I've even offered you guys to talk to the investor. It's not me using you. When he already said yes, I sent you the message for the $5 million, yes. I'm like, he switched the numbers. I can't do nothing about that. So that's when he made his big speech, like he's leaving. He's making his own studio, this and a third. Took most of my team. I had to rebuild with like 6-7 people. Now I'm back up to like 12, maybe 13. And I'm just like, man, that was a hard blow. And then before that, my company almost got taken by 2 other guys. I'm like, dude, really? Because the other guy, he was seeing back with the same zombie game. He was seeing that we were gaining traction. People thought the zombie game, they thought we were a subsidy of Capcom at the time. People were asking, you guys are part of Capcom, huh? I'm like, no. I'm like, we're fully indie. They're like, you're fucking lying. I'm like, right now we were trying to work with an investor to get this game done and put out, and people were loving it. They're like, I can't wait for this to drop. I want to play it. And I'm like, I'm happy you guys are interested because I've been working my ass off promoting this shit.
And so to tack onto that real quick, what was the trajectory for that launch? What was it scheduled to be on? Is this like PC, console?
PC, console. We were going to drop on Epic, of course. I can't tell you the other 2 consoles that we're going to drop on because they got me on the NDA under wraps right now. Just know we were going to drop on console. We had 2 consoles that were going to work with us. And I'm like, we're there. We're actually in the door. And as an indie studio coming right off the bat out of nowhere, that's fucking huge. So I'm like, we got all this traction. We got people ready to buy. We got all these things. And then to come up short because he screwed me is like, well, damn, now I got to pivot. I got to start over. I got to see if the console companies are still interested in this new game I made.
Mm-hmm.
And going forward to see like, hey, can we still partner with these guys? Or are these guys going to be like, yeah, Courtland, this isn't your best work that we've already seen out of you and your team. You know what I mean? So he set me back a good amount, but luckily people are okay with the game we're doing because they understand like, okay, he's making this just to get his foot in the door and then he's going to go back to the zombie.
So post-split, you have to recover somehow. Your team is dwindled down. Is it still currently 12 to 13 people or is it back up to a substantial number?
No, it's about 12, 13 people right now.
And so this is coming off the heels of losing, potentially just major traction. And at least you're making the attempt to recover. With the current title, with the Oracle, is that still the goal currently?
Yes, dropping the Oracle first is the current goal. Getting our foot in the door with this first title and dropping that is the goal.
I mean, based on the success of how this launch goes for the Oracle, and then you still plan on attempting or still moving forward with a zombie title?
Yes.
It's crazy to hear and kind of wrap your head around, the details of this story. The platform that you have yourself as someone leading this team, again, with major traction under you, from seeing what you have online. So like with the Oracle page, to me, the game mechanics, the background, the way some of the animation looks, currently the gaming style, it's very reminiscent of like what I came up with like Unreal Tournament, Counter-Strike, even something like Overwatch, that style of game.
Right.
I mean, is it fair to say that those are maybe some influences or inspirations, or what brought about the idea for that gaming style?
So starting off with the Oracle, because like I said, I had to pivot fast. So I was like, what kind of game can I make that's not been made yet? And that's my current niche of what I'm looking at with every game title I create is, what can we bring to the table? And I'm like, our niche, what got us here in the first place was a zombie game because nobody was making a zombie game like we were making. My team tells me, they're like, well, you're actually able to create something that people want.
And definitely just to tack on that real quick, it's smart. because there are plenty of games right now. I mean, in the current field of online play and the way that the movement currently right now is between, I guess, just us as consumers for video games, it is the market that's popular. Now hearing, the details of this, it's such a fucking good comeback, dude. It's smart. Look at Overwatch 2 launching, and it was free to download on Xbox Game Pass because that's how I picked it up.
Right.
And I was like, why wouldn't you put this out to purchase first? But it's smart because consumers like me who have a subscription are able to get it, try it out.
Exactly. And then I already had my numbers for HZN that I was going to drop the game at, because like I told the team, I'm like, we're not shooting for AAA, we're shooting for double. Double A is exactly what we want to be. Us being indie, we're able to create what we want and not have to sit in a box. That's the best and worst part. We're unknown, but we get to make impactful games that people don't even know they want until they see it. And then they're like, hold up, who the heck are these guys? What are they doing?
While you're indie, what are the cons of actually getting picked up? I mean, currently that you have the freedom to develop what you want, would a downside or would the flip side of that be that you have people in your ear suggesting what you should make after that?
No, actually, it's the complete opposite, because I've already ran with my team after this game. Like, we've already discussed, okay, if we make enough, we're going to a zombie game. If not, we'll make probably another free-to-play and then make enough off of that to go back to the zombie game. And then I have other game titles that they know I'm already working on that's actually been writing or being written out. Like, right now I have one that I think is exciting because I'm taking a concept of gods, right? Like how God of War is.
Yeah.
But I'm flipping it to where us as humans are enslaved by them. So when I ran that by my team, they're like, oh shit. I'm like, dude, all I do is market, write, research, look at other games. Because now I'm in the mindset, because I do a lot of research since my degrees in communications and marketing. And I'm like, okay, what did this game do that made it great? What did that game do to make it great? And I'm looking at it, comparing it, turning it inside out. And then I come up with a story. And then after I get the story done, I'm like, okay, this sounds great. I go back, run it by the team, and they're like, yes.
Do you have people contributing to writing with you and developing storylines, characters?
I take ideas that the team might have and see how we can incorporate it or how I can write it in. Because, like I said, this was a game that I just did very quickly, wrote out. I was like, okay, concepts I need, this I need, this I need. How can I make it look good? How can we make it sound good, look good, and draw interest? And I was like, okay, ever-moving platforms, that hasn't been done. Arena-style shooter, that's been done multiple times, but not to the extent that we're doing, where it's like, okay, each character has their own power-up, each character is able to use any type of weapon they want. You can't sit and camp like in other games. You actually have to constantly keep moving. Like, you get a kill, you got to keep moving.
Yeah.
Because it's fast-paced. So it's like, oh, I killed that guy. Yeah, I'm a bask in my ambience. And then you get headshot with a sniper. You're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have been bragging.
So with that, as far as gameplay, I mean, is the idea to, based on your description, are you keeping arenas or playing fields close to promote more combat?
So starting off, it's just going to be platforms moving and stuff like that. And then of course we have ideas in the background that we are working with and working towards that we plan to incorporate that I haven't put on the actual Facebook page or Instagram or anything like that, for the simple fact that gives us our edge. So we're like, okay, season 1, we'll go ahead, just do this. And season 2, we'll start adding in other variations of this, and that. And then season 3, okay, we're going to take it a little bit further. So we're constantly looking at the different seasons to push the game forward, so players aren't feeling stale, you know what I mean? So like that first, let's say the first 6 months, 6 to 8 months, right? Game's going good, everybody's loving it. You know, you'll get a couple players that's like, okay, this is getting repetitive. I like the fast-paced combat, but we need something more. Team and me already discussed, okay, what more can we do? For instance, I'll just tell you now, we'll have trapdoors opening up randomly, right? So that makes you constantly now on edge, because you don't have to just worry about the players. You got to worry about trapdoors underneath your foot. So you're like, oh, crap, okay.
I mean, obviously you're competing against other teams or other players, but the environment is now something that you have to be cautious of.
Exactly. And adding in an environment hazard, like, for instance, I don't know if you've seen the desert level, but a sandstorm to obscure your vision.
You just said that, and I'm like, I get it.
So you see where I'm going with it.
I do. Back in the day, like when Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire first dropped, I don't remember the map exactly or what the town was, but a part of one region, there was a desert level, and when you rode into that level, a sandstorm started. You know, it was an obstacle in a sense, because then when you would start battle, if you ran into a wild Pokemon, you ran into a trainer, everybody that you're battling against has a ground type or something that is able to withstand that level. But if your Pokemon is like a water Pokemon, you know, it lets you know, it says, hey, the sandstorm is raging, it's now buffed your Pokemon. And so you're now not only competing against your opponent, but that environment now has an effect on you as well, and it's taking down HP little by little. And so I get that.
Because now it opens you up to, like, there's a desert. Now I'm getting a sandstorm. Each level will have its own environmental hazard, of course. Like we have a rainforest, heavy rains, possibly heavy winds, which messes up trajectory, of course. And snow, of course, light and heavy snow that we can actually put in just like in the desert. So that's a lot of things that I'm looking at doing, where, of course, I got to discuss with the team, see how we can make that work, and add that in. That adds that other level of, like, holy crap, now they didn't upgrade it and did this. Turn around and be like, should we create now a whole new season with a whole new levels, like 4 new levels? Should we keep these, add to it, giving that distinction of it's ever changing, you don't know what's going to happen next.
I think it's smart to introduce new levels and new playing fields as you move along. Obviously, as speaking from like a consumer standpoint, you're always going to have old favorites. I've been buying Call of Duty now since, Black Ops 2. But when you come across levels like Nuketown, like Shipment, like Shoot House, like Rust, there are old favorites. And there are, you know, go-to levels that everybody loves. You know, you end up finding new levels and expanding your palette to these other fields that you become like really used to, and they intrigue you based on like what they are.
You go back to what you like, but then you also try out other things.
That's a really cool aspect, you know, that you're describing for these levels, like as far as the environment.
Thank you. That's why I'm like, my niche is, of course, trying to make these different types of levels, keeping the niche where it's different, creative, and unique, to where players are like, you know, Unfocused, they're actually doing stuff that's against the grain, going against what's being made right now. They're actually trying to bring back, I would say, one of the Sony executives told me, the fun. And that's where I feel like a lot of people fall short, because they're like, it's a lot of remake from consumers that I've talked to fans of ours. So like the problem is everybody's making remake.
I think gaming, as much as anything else, goes through seasons. You know, we had a time where games in the vein of like what Nintendo's doing currently were really popular. We had a time when first-person shooters were all the rage. Somewhat recently, you see like a God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us, where more story-based, you know, adventure games are popular, or where RPGs are popular. We go through these seasons. It's incredible when someone's able to bring something to the table that catches everybody's eye.
Right.
Where you're able to pull people in, because obviously, you know, you want your product to be successful. You want to be successful, and you want to be proud of what you're putting out. And I think it's that feedback that you ultimately end up receiving because of like who you're drawing in.
Right.
Where are you with, as far as, because obviously there's the Herculean that you have out on your page. The other character, Auntie, which I was like definitely in.
Right.
What is your roster looking like now, or do you have an idea of like how expansive you want your roster to be?
So starting off, when we actually do the demo, when players get to play our first demo and give me feedback personally, because like I said, I found out my niche, which is actually being available to the community, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, you want your hands, you know, in the field.
Exactly. And like, I see a lot of other, you know, indie people, other CEOs, they're like, oh, I don't want to be bothered. I'm like, bother me.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Let me know how do you really feel about it? And then even my team, they're like, well, you don't want to get too caught up with everybody's feedback unless it's like a set amount of people like, hey, you know, this is what's broken. As opposed to like 100 and we got like millions of players. You don't want to go around fixing every little thing, you know, because one person might be like, well, this person is too OP. But then we find out, well, the character you're playing as can't defeat him because the way you're playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you know, I'm playing as a fire type and I keep getting killed by this water guy.
Yeah. And you're like, well, that's a problem there.
Right, exactly. Like,
I think community outreach in that way is important now, because you notice when a lot of games come out, dependent on how their launch goes, you look at like a game, like for me, because I followed Borderlands for a long time and I still do. I really like what what Gearbox does. Borderlands 3 dropped and they had a lot of issues. Right away, it was like, hey, we hear you, like we get your feedback. And instantly, when you would start up that game, it was like, these new patches are being fixed. These new patches are being fixed. And it was like that for, I think it even still does that on startup. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's important to kind of keep your ear to the ground in that way. It's something more recently was like for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It had bugs right away. And that's why you go on like Instagram, you go on YouTube, and you see these videos of people like showing off the bugs that are in this game. And this was a finished game. This was a finished, finalized product. And, you have like just random, nonsense happening.
Right, exactly. And that's just like where you're like, well, crap. I mean, if you're going to actually push it out, because I know everybody has deadlines, at least push it out and let it be known, like, hey, it still needs to be fixed slightly. This is what's wrong with it, but we are working on it. So give us some time. And I don't see a lot of people doing that aspect either. And I admit it does suck, because I just had one of my friends buy Cyberpunk, and I warned him. I was like, dude, it's not playable. He's like, what do you mean it's not playable? I'm like I said, it's not playable. People are saying it's glitching out. It's not working. There's a lot of things. And he thought I was lying until he actually turned it on. So he's like, what the fuck?
And you know what? And honestly, like from a consumer standpoint, like me speaking to you, developing a game, that kept me from buying it. And I still have not played Cyberpunk yet.
I haven't either. So
and
I can't even say anything.
I'm a huge like CD Projekt Red fan. Like I followed him with The Witcher,
Right.
And I was like, this is going to be amazing, woo wop. And then it dropped. And the first thing you're hearing is nothing but bad stuff. And I was like, oh man. And so I still have not bought it. I still have not tried playing it at all. But I mean, that's what's important, again, is that you're open to at least receiving and understanding that feedback. I mean, not to say that they didn't, because I think, they went back and patched everything up. But still, it's important to make yourself available in that way.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the bigger things to where, like right now with these podcast interviews and all that, I'm like, I look at it from a standpoint to getting our message out there. And not only that, meeting the podcasters and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm up to. This is how I'm trying to do it. And then getting your guys' feedback. Like right now, I'm getting your feedback before we even go on, because you guys are potential consumers for what I'm doing. And that's why when I actually talk, and then, like I said, before I even start, and they're like, dude, you've done a whole bunch of shit already in your past 5 years. You almost lost your company. You had to kick people out. A guy ruined your fucking $5 million deal. I'd be pissed. I'm like, I don't have time to be pissed. That's the thing.
No, you gotta keep it moving.
Exactly. And not only that, because other investors are like, are you quitting? And I'm like, no. Like, good. And then that's how the conversation.
Yeah, and that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. And when I tell people that, they start laughing. They're like, investors are really like that? I'm like, the one I got is really like that. Like, you would think he's my fucking grandfather the way we talk to each other. Even though we talk business, the way we talk to each other is like really great friends. Like, he's been my uncle, grandfather for so many years, because he's been with me every step of the way, even before the whole mess with the $5 million deal.
Yeah.
And now he's just like, I'm just waiting on you to pull the shot. I was like, you're going to end up leaving the round. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm just waiting for you guys to get to that point to where I see something tangible before we actually, fully go in. I don't want another mishap like, last time. And I'm like, I fully understand. But
at least in you saying that, the confidence is there. So
right.
the confidence and the trust is there to know that it's like, I'm not, like, if I wanted to back out now, I'd back out and just keep it moving, Right. I'm going to keep it pushing. But obviously what you're doing is enticing enough to be like, I'm going to keep my eye on this guy. That speaks magnitudes,
I was just talking to my girlfriend earlier. She wants a house.
Yeah, we all want a house.
Right, exactly. And I got to talking to her about it. I'm like, we're in California. I'm like, once I start this business, I'm going to be hit with every type of fucking tax there is, especially if my company is successful. The investor doesn't want me to be in California, which I understand why, because he's like, most of my money would be going to taxes.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want that. I want to see you guys flourish. And I'm like, this sucks because we are in California. You're right. I can't just be like, yeah, let me just up and leave everything.
Let me just uproot, and you're right. Let me just leave.
Exactly. And that's where I'm like, what is the best way I could go about it, And then my lawyer I talked to, he was like, well, we could put it over in Nevada because he represents people in Nevada too. He's like, but then you have to worry about the foreign tax, because you're registering as a new business in California. I'm like, yeah, but we're just online though. I was like, I don't have a physical presence anywhere. since I'm working out my home. So I don't have an office building. I don't have anything. You know, he was like, you'd have to talk to a tax rep to see how that would end up working either with you or against you. He was like, I get it. Your investor wants to keep most of the money with you guys. That makes sense. But figuring out the best plan of action to go about that is how you and your team is going to win. And I'm like, God. He was like, yeah. He was like, it's a lot to be a CEO.
Life ain't gonna wait. You're gonna keep moving. Like you have your goals set in mind for what you want.
Exactly. You can't really just sit and be sad about yourself and be like, well, you know, what went wrong? What's going wrong? How can I flip this to a positive? And then I'm like, okay, I already know. He's going to ask me, am I going to be quitting anytime soon? I'm going to tell him no. He's going to tell me, good, kid, keep at it.
Rather that than be like, nah, you know what? I'm out.
Right. Like I'm backing down. You know what?
It's like, I'm selling everything. I'm not doing this no more.
Right. And the fact that I got my team, it makes it a little bit easier because I'm like, well, they're helping me. They're actually pushing me forward too. And I'm like, right now, the thing that's killing us are the 3D models for the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's the only thing that's stopping us right now. And everybody knows it. And of course, they're looking at me and how I'm going to do, what am I going to do next? And I'm like, I'm waiting on the guys to finish. We just picked up a new 3D modeler. So all I can do now is either wait or try and actually figure out how to find somebody either on Fiverr or something to get it done. But I'm like, they're already started. It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just have to roll with what's going on. So, on the side of gaming, aside from your own project, what has gaming been like for you?
Man, I was a gamer at a young age. I had the old school Nintendo, Game Boy Color. Played everything from Xbox to Game Boy to Switch to the PS5.
Now in this day and age, everybody's like, well, you know, I have a PC at home.
See, I didn't even have a PC. That's the funny part. I never played PC.
No, neither did I. I'm like, PCs could hardly handle like internet, you know? So it was never it was never a thing.
That's why when people are like, oh my God, PC is number one. I'm like, I'm going to stick to what I know, which is console.
What kind of games were you into?
I had a broad palette from adventure to racing, of course, sports, action, of course, shooters.
What were some of your favorite franchises coming up with gaming?
I would say old school Crash Bandicoot.
Good one.
I would play that. I would play Spyro, of course. Ratchet and Clank, of course. You can't go wrong with them. Actually, I got the newest one, so I can't even lie. I got a Rift in Time. I haven't even finished it because I've been so busy working on mine. I got to beat that sooner or later.
I'm not going to lie. Sony, for the longest, like, especially the old school, like, place like PS1 roster, even PS2, like Ratchet and Clank, or with like Jak and Daxter, with Sly Cooper, a lot of that old roster was amazing.
PlayStation.
Are you finding time to game now?
Yes, I am. So I'll usually, depending, because I'm like 4 or 5 different managers at Safeway. So I'm like constantly for my 8 hours. I don't know what manager I am until I get there, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go there for my 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever my boss wants. I come home, deal with my kids, my girlfriend, and my son, and I'm up. Either networking, like I'm doing now, you know, networking with you guys that are podcasters or potential investors or partners, business partners who want to partner with me. And I stay up until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then that hour I get is just gaming, just to sit down, relax, and game or watch anime because I'm big into anime too.
Believe it!
So what is gaming looking like for you right now? Like, what are you playing? What are you into?
I'm back at Monster Hunter right now. I'm back there. I've been playing, 2K, of course. And then, of course, Titanfall. Titanfall is my go-to when I want to just have a bad day and kill somebody.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Titanfall was a good title. It really was a good title.
It was. And the fact that now they stopped Titanfall 3, I was like so upset. I'm like, what? No.
Those franchise halts, they do something to you, especially when it's dependent on like what the field is. They did something really smart in that they took advantage of the first person, like the landscape that there was, and they were like, what can we do? Let's bring out a giant fucking robot, you know, and let's introduce that aspect to the game. And then having that combat system of like, you know, robot to robot or titan to titan. That was interesting at the time. I was like, wow, dude, this is like steps ahead of what other people are doing.
That's the thing. I constantly tell people, I'm like, the best time to get into gaming is actually right now because it's constantly on the upswing. You wanna be on the upswing with the way everything is moving. You want to be having your hands in there and make your own niche. And I found mine, luckily, at an early time. You don't see no new IPs. And I'm like, why isn't nobody creating a actual game that pushes the IP? You know, I'm like, you keep seeing the 2Ks, the Call of Duties, the Gears of War. You see all these games, and I'm like, it's basically the same thing, just reskinned.
The same
You
could be
know?
said about like movies right now.
Right,
Like we don't need fucking live action adaptations of everything.
right.
We
It's fucking
we
wild.
don't. And I mean, I understand the argument with I guess something more mainstream popular with like Marvel.
Right,
I understand like the gripes that people have, but also like people are mad at it now that it's popular and it makes money because at the time no one was making fucking superhero movies. Who do we have? We had fucking Wesley Snipes running
Wesley
around with the
Snipes.
samurai sword,
Right,
cutting
killing
fucking people up.
and made it fucking popular.
But you know what? It was good and it was popular, but it ended up falling short because it just eventually became an action franchise.
Right.
Until someone sat down and said, "Hey, look, there's Marvel and they have these, fucking Avengers," which at the time, who really knew about the Avengers other than people that were consuming the comics? And someone came around and was like, "Let's make this into a movie franchise." And then once it was on and popping, it was on and popping and everybody liked them. But now that it became successful and big actors want to sign up and you have directors like a Martin Scorsese that are like, these movies suck, but if I made this movie, it would be
It'd be
amazing.
amazing.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, man, but guess what? Like, you didn't like these, but now that they're popular, you like it. Well, you don't like them, but you don't like them because of how popular they are.
Exactly.
I understand exactly where your head's at as far as like the game, like the landscape of gaming. It's hit and miss to like what's really like outside of the box. Look at a game like Little Nightmares where it's like a side scroller almost,
Mm-hmm.
but you have all this like really like it's a really like, not to sound like super pretentious or nothing, but like it's a really beautiful landscape. I mean, aside from like the really nightmarish aspects of it, it's a really beautiful landscape, and the idea of the game itself is like it's great and it's different and it's a top rated game. A lot of people look past it unless you find it because we have other games, not to say that they're not good, like a God of War that's fucking amazing and winning awards, but because it's in the mainstream, it's being, we're all consuming it.
Exactly. And that's where it's at. Like, how do you get your game in front of millions of people?
I have this thing, and how do I get other people to see it so that it can
Bigger.
be acknowledged and like make it bigger.
And I'm constantly like one of the podcasters I just talked to, she's like, we'd love to play your game and actually do a watch party of actually all of us playing. I invite people to come in, discuss it, ask questions, and have you and or somebody from your team there. And I'm like, see, that's exactly how you get to that next level. You have other people who like what you're doing, wanting to see it, wanting to play it, and actually putting it out for consumers' eyes. And I tell people, I'm like, you really don't need a budget with marketing. You have to network your ass off, though. If you network your ass off, that's most of the battle. And I grew up with the saying, my mom used to say, closed mouth don't get fed.
It's true. It's the same thing. It was like this, it was like,
Exactly.
I can reach out to this guy and the worst you're going to say is no, but reached out to you anyway.
Exactly. And you went for it.
Yeah. Cause it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Oh, it's just someone that's, I'm not going to talk to.
Pretty much.
Oh, well, you
Right.
move on.
Move on. That's the thing. It's like for instance, at my job right now, everybody's just afraid of my big boss. And I'm just like, why? But he scares me. I'm like, but why? Like, what makes him scary? And I'm talking about like 30, 40, 50-year-old men are terrified of my big boss. And I'm like, the worst you're going to do is fire me and I can get a job anywhere else in Grass Valley. That's the worst. It's not the end of the world if you fire me.
Yeah. Especially if you have the experience, then it's like,
Right. And I'm like, keep in mind, I'm 4 managers for you guys and an ambassador. You guys need me more than I need you at this point. I'm like, if I really wanted to just be an asshole, I could go back to my old job and be an assistant manager and say, fuck you guys.
you have the leverage.
I do. And the fucked up part is the store manager knows it. Like the big boss knows it. And he's like, I don't want to lose you. So he's constantly trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Work environments they vary across the board, obviously, I mean, any given field can, has its ups and downs.
Right. And that's currently where I'm at. Cause I'm like, you know what? I got both my degrees. If I walk into any company and be like, these are my degrees and I'm going back to school for my BA, they're like, really? Like, yeah, I'm studying for my BA and I'm going to go get my master's. They're like, oh, yeah, we want you.
I worked in warehousing for the longest time, and I've met guys that I've had to teach, the from A to Z of like what we're supposed to be doing. And these are guys that are younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 19, not even working in their desired field. They have probably like a BA or something in like fucking chemistry, and they're warehouse managers like for like analytics, getting paid big fucking money.
Right.
And here I am like a few years ago, and it's like I'm making 16 an hour, being a support lead for an unnamed fucking supply chain, doing all this random shit, teaching this guy who doesn't think shit of me.
Right.
And I'm like, I mean,
What the fuck am I doing?
You have, yeah. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing that you aren't? It's like, I'm just on my end. I just, I don't have a degree to fucking back me up.
You're right.
But I have the experience and the know-how.
Right. And that's the biggest thing to where I'm at right now. Like, I'm pretty sure like I could probably go ahead and put on LinkedIn, I'm looking for a job. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a whole bunch of recruiters. And I'm like, I could do that and be an asshole and just be like, remote work preferred. And I'm pretty sure, they're like, oh shit, you're going back to college. Oh shit, you're doing this. Like, yeah, we're definitely going to sign you. But I'm like, I'm trying to stick it out because I'm like, I don't want to work the long ass hours that I'm doing now unless the pay matches. And that's the problem. They're like, oh, you're a fresh college student. We can pay you this. Like, no. I've already got certain skills in certain areas.
You're like Liam Neeson in Taken.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, that sounds, that's what you probably want to pay me. But no.
I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
Exactly. Like I tell my girlfriend, I'm like, I know I need a better job. I'm like, retail, I'm tired of it.
It's the duality of fucking adulting. We're doing what we have to do to pay the bills. And, for like, especially someone with yourself, you have to think in hindsight, you're not only taking care of your family and taking care of what has to be done in your own personal life, but you also have this entity behind you that you are trying to propel to the next fucking level,
And that's like the constant thing where I'm constantly like, okay, I could do this, I could do that. But I'm like, I need a job that's paying more so I can actually continue with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm making an pretty good amount. That's cool. But at the same time, I'm like, there's more out there.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I'm in the mountains and it's hard to find shit because I'm in the fucking mountains. But like my girlfriend said, she was like, you just got your A. You could be making $96 an hour if we lived in Sacramento for a company. And I'm like, I already know that. I fucking know that. I just can't do anything because we live up here. And I tell her that's the problem. Like, we're in the fucking sticks. We're in the mountains. There's no jobs really. After you actually get a job up here, you really don't have that much work, whether it's retail, food, or FedEx or UPS. You really don't have nothing.
Yeah.
It sucks, but at least all the bills are paid. So the fact that I realized that, I'm like, it's not that I hold all the cards, just I got that little piece of paper backing me up now.
I mean, you're better off on your end because, like you said, you have that piece of paper behind you, which it's not. It's a lot more than that. But I mean, in the work field, you got the juice. You can go and you can flex on people. I ask everybody the same question, and we kind of end in the same way. What are you currently watching, reading, playing? What are some of the going-ons that you have?
Well, right now, of course, playing Monster Hunter, reading anything that actually interests me as far as the competitors in gaming and animation, what they did right, what shows did wrong, what games did wrong, what games did right. As far as everything else, I would say I just tend to take it day by day and go with the flow and see where all the chips fly and lie.
This was an amazing introduction to who you are and to what your platform is currently and what you have going on. Before we sign off, if you would like, please plug all of your socials and your platform and what you have that you're leading.
Of course, for anybody that's interested, I'll go ahead and tell you everybody where they can find us, which is Instagram.com/UnfocusedStudios. For the anime side, it's Instagram.com/daydream_animations. Twitter is, of course, our name, which is twitter.com/unfocused. twitter.com/daydream animations. I would like to shout out my team and family for being with me and sticking with me through all this craziness that I've been through so far.
The will that you have, like, to pivot the way that you have so far it's amazing to hear about.
That's exactly what I want to share. Like I said, letting people know exactly what we're doing, what I'm planning to do, and how I'm trying to go about it.
It's an amazing story. It really is. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. I appreciate you staying on with me. I appreciate you, brother, and I will be in contact.
You're welcome. You have a great night.
Have a good one. Take care. For everyone listening, that was my interview with Courtland Tyler. This is hopefully a part one that will lead into a part two. He is a game developer, a CEO. He was a very grounded person to speak with. I'm glad I had the opportunity to do so. I hope those of you who are tuning in enjoy the episode. I enjoyed it. Everybody tune in to the Dadless podcast group. We now have a link tree. Please tap in, follow all of us. Our link will be in bio across all platforms that we're on. I'm trying to get our more clips onto YouTube now. I'm just trying to make moves. The new year, I'm trying to make moves. So I appreciate it. This is The Elder. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you'll hear from us soon.